O'Reilly. Are your wiper blades chattering, skipping, or squeaking? Don't let streaks or smearing on your windshield compromise your visibility. When it's time to replace your wiper blades, stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts and see our selection. Our professional parts people will even install your new wiper blades while you wait. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts today. O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Outdoor adventure won't wait for engine problems. Things like hard starts, rough performance, and lost fuel economy are often caused by fuel gum and varnish buildup. Seafoam can help your engine run better and last longer. Simply pour a can in your gas tank. Hunters and anglers rely on Seafoam to keep their engines running the way it should the entire season. Pick up a can of Seafoam today at your local auto parts store or visit seafoamworks.com to learn more.
There's nothing like snook hook sets at dawn or catching a tarpon in the moonlight. Find your next fishing trip made easy on fishingbooker.com and experience the magic of the Sunshine State or any other destination on your fishing bucket list. Book a blue water adventure in search of sailfish or go snapper fishing with the kids. With over 6,000 captains and trips to choose from, planning your next one just got a whole lot easier. Download the Fishing Booker app on the Google Play or App Store, or visit them online at fishingbooker.com to book your trip today.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Cutting the Distance. Now, over the last 8 or so episodes, at the end, I've been saying, if you got questions, if this happened, reach out. Send me social media messages. Send me emails at remy@themeateater.com, all this stuff. So now we're going to do something a little bit different on this one. I feel like it's a good point to maybe answer a few questions that we've got from past episodes and kind of just reply, do a little free form, and maybe you'll glean some more tips off of stuff that I've already talked about or new stuff. So Ben here has prepared a few Q&As for me just out of things that he's seen, maybe cut some down to some questions that I will be answering. I don't know the questions yet, so there might be some surprises. I don't know. Maybe
these are secret questions.
Secret questions.
I haven't given you. I've been manning Remy at the MeatEater.com for this entire time, and sitting in the studio while Remy narrates his stories and gives the tips. So, like, I don't know if I'm the man behind the scenes. I'm definitely a man that is also behind the scenes.
Behind it.
I'm way behind. So I've been reading a lot of your stuff at Remy at the MeatEater.com, and I've been following along on social and enjoying this podcast. I mean, we certainly want to make sure we give you the best product you possibly can get. And so we're going to get, these are all pretty useful and pretty serious questions. And so you ready, Remy, Warren?
Yes,
are you ready?
but, well, first I want to thank everybody.
Sure.
I like to throw out the gratitudes and platitudes. Please. I don't know what that means.
Please.
But no, actually, a lot of it, I love people have been like sharing and tagging me in it as well. That's awesome. Like, I think that this continues because of the people listening and their excitement about it, as well as just sharing it with their friends. So thank you guys for doing that. I really appreciate it. And thank you for interacting and the questions and stuff, because it gives me better direction going into the future of like what I should be talking about. Some stuff, man, I'm like, yeah, I didn't know I should be talking about that. So it's good. Like, there's a lot of things that I'm like, man, some of it, I think, oh man, that's kind of boring. But really, it's stuff that I just maybe take for granted. Like the things that I know that I just kind of take for granted. So that's where a lot of the comments and stuff come in.
Yeah, I mean,
super handy.
And everybody, sharing your experiences, sending pictures in, all the things that you guys done.
It's some great successes.
Yeah, and
those are the best triumphs.
The funny part is some of these emails are long. You guys aren't skipping on the details, and we appreciate that because we're hunters, man. We like to, Remy, I know, likes to listen to and read stories. I do too. So
For sure.
And so the idea of this podcast is just to draw out all the stuff Remy's gone through in his life. And he spends, 300 days a year afield sometimes, some years. And there's no better person to kind of translate all this. So I've been very happy with all of your emails and all your questions, man. It's been fun to ride along with Remy and see the reaction, man. It's a hell of a thing. So you want to get started there, Remy?
Yeah, let's do this.
Okay.
Do this.
Let's do this. Here we go. So episode number 3, you talked about hot weather meat care.
Yep.
And that's a hot topic. I'm a former Yeti man myself as far as employment goes, and a current Yeti man as far as my cooler use goes. And this question came from Jason in Arizona. He lives in a hot state, pretty close to your home state of Nevada. And he is asking, he wrote in, a long email, but it essentially boiling down to asking, when you're transporting meat, do you, if you're putting it in a cooler, would you allow it to be saturated in water? And is there any point during the meat process from field to butcher to whatever that you would feel is appropriate to leave, say, an elk quarter or a mule deer quarter or any good cut of meat soaking in water for any amount of time at all? And he specifically asks about leaving, coming back, throwing a quarter in your cooler and driving home and having all the ice melt, and now you've got, a pretty fresh chunk of meat
For sure.
that's submerged.
Yeah, so here's the thing about that. Like I was saying before, is you want to keep meat cool and dry. Now, elk are a special breed because a lot of times they're just the size makes it cumbersome. Now, I think if you want to avoid it being in water. However, that's not always possible. You got to live in the real world. If you can keep it out of the water, great. But I just, knowing from experience, traveling home or whatever, a lot of times that quarter does get soaked. Is it going to go off between you driving home and sitting in the cooler water? No, it's not. But one thing that I do when I get home is the first thing I do, and I've done this like with ladders in the garage. Like I create some form to hang it somewhere when I get home. I've done this in the garage with like a closet dowel between 2 ladders because I just didn't have a good setup for it. And then what I do is I take a fan because the best way to cool it down and keep it dry is to dry it out. Now, if you live in Arizona, it's even hot pretty much all the time.
Yes.
So the garage is shaded. Somewhere it's cool if you don't have AC in your garage. Run a fan on it. Get that air circulation and you'll develop that crust again. And then it's time to put back in the fridge or whatever. Now, I recently had a buddy have this same problem. He's like, man, I got back. Everything was waterlogged. I got to go back to work on Monday. Dude, what do I do with this freaking elk until I'm butchering it all week, but it's not going to be one day. I've got other things I got to do. Like I got to do pieces at a time. How do I store it? What do I do? So I think there's a couple things you can do. First, the refrigerator is a great place to store it as much as you can. And when you store it in the fridge, if you just put it all in one tub, like that's not keeping it dry either. The blood and everything soaks to the bottom. So you need to figure out a way to separate everything out or continually move it in the fridge until you get those pieces.
Yeah, and you would a lot of times if your fridge has like a glass shelf or something that won't allow air circulation, you could flip that quarter over every once in a while to make sure that there's always air circulation.
Get that air circ going.
You got to have it.
But like how long can you leave something in the fridge? Well, it depends on the state. Like if it's in the fridge with air circulating around it completely, you could leave it in for a month almost, 20 days. I don't really like aged meat personally, like dry aged that much, but I've left stuff in my chiller for, a week or 2 and it's great. Yeah. It's fine. You've probably done.
I age all the time. I've aged up to in the high 40s of days, and it's a science that you have to really take time on. So we were talking about when we were recording that podcast, I remember talking about, we were sitting in trying to just determine how you're going to go through the 30 minutes of the show. And we're just talking about a lot of times a guy, like you said, is going to shoot an elk on a Saturday or a Sunday, spend all his time getting it home, and then Monday comes, it's time to go to work.
Yep.
And you don't have, say you don't have an area that you can hang it. Say it's too hot to hang it outside, and your fridge isn't big enough for 100+ pounds of meat to be stuffed in it.
Here's another option. You get the water out of the cooler, and then I learned this trick from some friends in New Zealand. Is you get a big animal, well, cut off. You don't have a lot of time to butcher it the way you want. So for that downtime in between the butchering, cut off large chunks in big muscle groups and get large vacuum seal bags and vacuum seal those pre-butcher. Because then when there's no air going to them, they won't go bad in the fridge. And so you don't have to worry about the air circulation. So you can pack it into the fridge that way and then take those packets out and butcher it. You could also repack the cooler full of ice, put those vacuum sealed things in the cooler on top of the ice to keep them cold. But by stopping the air, you're going to stop them from going off, like from spoiling. So just by vacuum sealing them, you can leave them. I've got friends that when they shoot something, they just vacuum seal it and leave it in their fridge for 2 or 3 weeks. Yeah. Because it won't spoil if they can't get air. Now, it has to be a tight vacuum seal. So you really got to make sure, nothing's around the edges of that bag. And you get those bigger bags and you can put those big chunks. And it's just an easier way to organize it until you have time to butcher it. Then as you come home, you might have 1/4 that is free drying in the fridge. And then the other stuff stacked in the cooler. You can kind of work your space. And then as you butcher, you're gaining more space and you can rotate things through. Yeah. That's the way that I do it.
Yeah. I'm sure you would agree that you have to have that process though.
But I wouldn't just leave it in my garage soaking in cooler water for 5 days. That's not cool.
When you're out hunting on a weekend, even if that's kind of your game, if you're just a weekend guy, I just feel like, I'm sure you agree, that you got to have a process. I kill a bull, no matter when it is. This is how I'm going to make sure that the meat doesn't get ruined. From field to truck to cooler to freezer to butcher paper. I mean, you have to have this thought out, and you can't run into a situation where, I got to go to work and I have no idea what to do with this meat. I've got it all the way here now.
Right. In those instances, maybe I like to do my own butchering, but dude, maybe you just gotta bite the bullet, drop it off somewhere that can handle it, and have that place down before you do it. That's just. It sucks when you're like, I want to butcher it myself, but if that's your situation, you don't have the ability to take care of it. There are places that have it. So that you got to keep that as a backup plan too. That's an option. But really there's workarounds. However, back to the original question, soaking in water, don't do that. Don't leave it soaking in water.
Don't do it. Okay, the next one, Adam C. He's from Virginia. He was talking about, in your first episode, you were talking about shooting at angles, horizontal distance versus linear distance. He was just telling a story of trying to understand sight picture and shooting at angles. And the question that he leveled in here that I thought was good was just basically at the end. He says, I feel like my bubble level is a distraction. I'm trying to get my pin in the right spot, make sure I've got good footing and do everything right. Why the hell does my bubble level matter, and what does it mean when shooting at angles?
Okay, that's a good question.
That is a good question.
There's a lot of technical answer involved in that simple question, but I will give a abbreviated version of it. So, first answer, why the level? The level's really important because if you think about it, you got, let's say, we'll just go with a multi-pin sight, not even a slider sight. Just a multi-pin sight. You got your first pin at 20 and your last pin at 50, let's say. Okay. So you draw back and your bow is not level to the ground. Well, what the level is it's making sure that all the pins are in line with the horizontal plane of the ground. So therefore, your left and right of your point of aim is the same. So if your bubble is cocked way to the left, say, that means that the top limb would be angling far right. Now, think about your bottom pin, your 50-yard pin. Not that you're even shooting 50 yards, but where is that putting that 50-yard pin? Well, that's putting the pins further down, further left than where it should be. Now, if you're shooting just really close, it makes a smaller difference. But as you even move out 5-10 yards, you're really pushing your point of aim in a direction left or right if your bow isn't level. Now, when you talk about, shooting at angles and using your level, it's even more important. But one thing you have to factor is what we call the third axis. So that's as you move your bow down, is your level still level? And then the second axis you would do to level your bow, make sure you can put your bow in a vise or use it up against a door jamb, something that's plumb, like a plumb line, running, say, a weighted string down so you know that something's level. Then you draw back at full draw. Do this outside somewhere safe. Don't dry fire it. You can do it with an arrow, but make sure, obviously, use common sense. Be safe.
Yeah.
Now, are all your pins lined up on that plumb line when you're flat, and then your bubble should be level? Then you know that your bubble is level for level ground. If it's not, almost every bow now has a way to adjust that. So you adjust the level itself that way. Then that would be, I guess, the second axis. Then the third axis would be canting it out. So as you go down at a 45 up or down, does that level stay level? Is it true? And so I like to use a plumb line to figure that out. I also, and at full draw, you want to do it at full draw because it changes, your grip and everything changes. So that does make a difference. I found this vise device. I think it's like a vise that PSE makes. I don't even know the name of it, but you can find it that you can clamp it on. You level, it's got levels on it. Then you level yours, and then you can drop that vise to 45 degrees. Yeah. That's a good place to start. The other axis, you push the housing away or towards you to adjust.
Well, and if you really want a quick way to learn this too, next time you're at your pro shop and they're setting your bow up, just ask them, because if they're doing it right, they're checking your third axis. Ask them, how do you do that? And just watch them do it. They likely will have a tool. If they don't, see how they freehand it.
And then there's another good device for full draw third axis is Hamskea makes it. That's a good one set up. But long story short, heck yeah, that bubble makes a big difference.
Yeah. And that's, you gotta, like, when you're checking your sight picture, that's just gotta be, again, part of your process. You gotta be like, check this, and let the arrow fly. Yeah. You can't skip that bubble level, or, like you said, at distances, it's tough.
Well, and if you just think, it feels level, on angle, it always feels level what's not level, so it makes a big difference.
Yep.
O'Reilly Auto Parts are in the business of keeping your car on the road. O'Reilly Auto Parts offer friendly, helpful service and the parts knowledge you need for all your maintenance and repairs. If you're confused about what part you need, like what wipers are going to be the best, what replacement headlights are going to be the best, go into O'Reilly and talk to the people that work there, because they're great and they're super friendly, and they'll get you squared away where you walk out knowing you got the right thing. They've got thousands of parts and accessories in stock, either in-store or online, so you never have to worry if you're in a jam. Do you need your windshield wipers replaced? You need a brake light fixed? You need some quick service? They'll help you find the right part or point you to the nearest local repair shop for help. The professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts are your one-stop shop for all things auto do-it-yourself, and you can find what you need in-store or online. Stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts today or visit us at O'ReillyAuto.com/MeatEater. That's O'ReillyAuto.com/MeatEater.
We've all seen plenty of gadgets and fads come and go, but here's one product that stood the test of time: Seafoam Motor Treatment. Lots of hunters and anglers know that Seafoam helps engines run better and last longer. It's really simple. When you pour it in your gas tank, Seafoam cleans harmful fuel deposits that cause engine problems. I'm talking common stuff like hard starts, rough engine performance, or lost fuel economy. Seafoam is an easy way to prevent or overcome these problems. Just pour a can in your gas tank and let it clean your fuel system. You probably know someone who has used a can of Seafoam to get their truck or boat going again. People everywhere rely on Seafoam to keep their trucks, boats, and small engines running the way that they should the entire season. Help your engine run better and last longer. Pick up a can of Seafoam today at your local auto parts store or visit SeafoamWorks.com to learn more.
There's nothing like snook hook sets at dawn or catching a tarpon in the moonlight. Find your next fishing trip made easy on fishingbooker.com and experience the magic of the Sunshine State or any other destination on your fishing bucket list. Book a blue water adventure in search of sailfish or go snapper fishing with the kids. With over 6,000 captains and trips to choose from, planning your next one just got a whole lot easier. Download the Fishing Booker app on the Google Play or App Store or visit them online at fishingbooker.com to book your trip today.
This is one that you and I were both thinking when we were recording episode number 2, which is the bear attack on the Fogneck and being safer in bear country. We were both thinking of this, and when we were talking about putting the episode together, whether it should be multiple bear attacks or multiple bear encounters that you've had that kind of informed the tips, but we felt it was smoother just to have just the Fogneck attack. But you have a lot of other bear encounters, that are informative. And this question came in a bunch. I probably read 20 of them, I bet. In regards to black bear country, as we'll call it, which is most of the United States. But in country where you're hunting or you're around black bears, do you take the same precautions as you do in grizz or brown bear country? And how does your mind think about that scenario?
Yeah, so I generally don't take the same precautions, but I take precautions because statistically, I think there's more black bear attacks than there are brown bear attacks.
Sure.
And it's just based on you encounter them more. Mm-hmm. They are more places and they're close. They do things closer to people. One day, my brother was on a fall bear hunt, packed into the Mission Mountains, hunted bears hard for 7 days, got back, unpacking his stuff. He texted me that he was home, so I'm like, sweet. So I rolled back into the driveway, and here's a big old black bear trying to get an empty diesel can in our yard. You know what I mean? And I'm like, here he was out in grizz country and black bear country and had 0 encounters, and yet right in the driveway, here's this big old bear that's like getting ornery about an empty diesel can. And I think that right there is because you just don't know where you're going to encounter black bears.
Yeah.
So you need to take precautions. When I'm in areas like Prince of Wales or due to a place that there's a lot of high densities of black bears, California, people that hunt in California, there's a lot of freaking bears there.
Oh, yeah.
And so in those places where there's a lot of black bears, I do take the precautions. If I don't keep food in my tent, I take the precaution. And, it never hurts to have some form of protection from any sort of predator. If you're bow hunting in California, it's not a bad idea to have some kind of something on you. I'll never forget, just like, reading, what was it? It was actually Cam Haines' book on backcountry bow hunting, and he has a story in there about a guy named South Cox that got tore up by a bear in California. Every time I'm hunting California, I think that as a black bear, and I've heard other stories of just people that have sent me, look at this. This is from black bear, and my buddy's cousin got taken out of her tent while river guiding by a black bear. So yeah, when you're in black bear country, you really need to just also be aware of your surroundings at all times. But I do not personally think they're as serious of a threat as grizzly bears. Like, you have to be 100% on it in grizzly country. Black bear country, I don't know. I've had bad encounters with black bears.
Well, there's roughly, I don't know, it depends on the population estimates. There's 10 times the amount of black bears in this country as there are grizzly bears.
I've encountered more aggressive black bears than grizz,
really,
or brown bears. Yeah, I mean, I've had one follow me.
No kidding,
dude. I've got a lot of encounters with black bears. One of them, I had one tear up my brand new 4-wheeler. Had one steal some packs from some hunters. Had one follow me. I had to put the pistol in one's face, and it charged me.
Damn,
it charged to I thought about shooting. I had a tag too, but I just didn't want to deal with it.
Speaking of Cam Haines, I've hunted with Cam before, where hunting with a bow on the ground in Alberta when there's 15 18 black bears walking around you, and they're all within 10 yards, complete on a bait site. And the way that they describe it up there is that if a grizzly comes into the bait, you stand up and you get your shotgun, or you stand up in a defensive position, because the grizzly bear is not coming in to lick the honey. He's coming in to mess with anything that's in his territory. And that's how they described it. And so I didn't run into a bait that had both grizz and black bears on it, but that's how they describe it up there.
Yeah, I mean, but if you're in just black bear country camping, whatever, you should be cautious. You should take precautions. It never hurts to be cautious. So
Never.
do yourself a favor. Don't go into a situation thinking if it freaks you out, if you think, oh, there's black bears in this and I'm nervous, bring some bear spray, bring something, follow bear safety tips. Like, what's it gonna hurt? Who cares? You'll be more comfortable that way.
Yep, especially family camping and stuff too.
Oh yeah.
You gotta be on the ball. Okay, what we got
Wait,
next?
can I tell a funny family camping bear story?
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Okay, so I'll just divert from the question real quick. So my grandpa always had this story that he has white hair. So when we were little kids, like real little, he would tell us this story that a bear peed on his head, and that's how his hair turned white. And so in order for him to get his hair back, we needed to pee on a bear's head for him. Right. So we're like on a family camping trip. I don't even know. I was old enough to know better. I was probably like 6 years old. And then my little brothers are there, and we're camping in Northern California, somewhere in the Humboldt area. I don't know. Campground style camping on the coast. And this big old black bear walks into camp, just checking people's coolers. Ooh. And me and my brothers get together and we're like, wouldn't it be cool if we peed on this bear's head for Grandpa? So it's like getting into our cooler and we think, okay, we're going to jump up on the picnic table and pee on this bear's head. So we jump up on the table, ready to pee on this bear's head, and the bear sees and starts running. And now we're like chasing the bear, pants half down through the campground. These three little kids chasing this bear with their pants half down through a campground. People are looking like, oh, a bear. And then here come these like screaming kids running by trying to pee on this bear's head. That, had it been successful, that would have been a great encounter.
An entire podcast.
But... yeah.
How many people you think have actually peed on a bear? You think anybody's ever made that happen? Like Lewis and Clark, maybe?
Probably
peed on a bear at some point?
Yeah. But that's my campground bear story.
That's a unique story,
It is a unique
That's
story.
why we love your podcast.
Yeah,
These unique stories.
Yeah.
We may make that into a whole episode.
Someone should animate that. Like, okay, that would be a great little animation.
If you're listening to this and you're an animator, please let us know what it costs, or just do it for free. We'd prefer that. What else we got here, bud? What else? We did 3 episodes on elk. So as you can imagine, lots and lots of elk questions, and we're not out of the elk season yet now. So some of these I think can be helpful. Here's one. Let's see. Who's it from? Brian in Minnesota. He said he was traveling out west to Colorado to do some elk hunting this year by himself, and was asking that a lot of your in episodes 4, 5, 6, where you talked about dogging elk and coaxing in lone bulls and non-vocal sounds, he says that a lot of that you were describing guiding another person or calling for another person. You're on a show called Solo Hunter. He's asking, what do I do if I'm by myself and all these situations occur? I've got to both draw my bow and rake a tree, or draw my bow and make, cow sounds and bugles in different directions. He's just asking for, like, how do you execute those things? Yeah,
it is more difficult, but almost all the elk I've taken have been by myself. One thing I do is I like to change the direction that I'm calling to make it appear that I'm further back. Another thing is, don't be afraid to move around. A lot of the elk are expecting to see movement. You can get away with a lot of movement, especially when you're in a calling position. You just have to stay vigilant, keep your eye open, make sure that the elk is not going to see you first. But don't be afraid to do what you need to do to get that bull to come to you. Now, when it's really bearing down, I prefer to use a diaphragm style call because it's hands free.
Oh, Remy's got some elk calls.
Not,
see those.
I always have elk calls. I never, but I know that some people have trouble even using these calls or don't practice with them or can't use them. So if that is you, practice making the cow, like the basic cow call with your voice. I use that a lot to stop the bull or to, if you got to draw back and in bad timing, use just a meow, meow, meow. That's no call. That's just my voice going meow. Practice that because that is key just to stop the elk. Sometimes you'll need that. Another good call, if you don't have, is like the kind that you bite, the biting call, because you can keep it in the corner of your mouth. Mm-hmm. The Primos everyone makes one. There's a lot of those. I've used quite a few of those in the past. But yeah, out of the tactics that I've done, the best two for being by yourself, the dogging elk and the calling to a lone bull. That's great. They're great setups if you're by yourself. Yeah. So hopefully those situations arise.
Yeah, that's just every type of hunting where you're by yourself and you're calling to
it's
an
more
animal.
difficult.
It's just more difficult.
It's how it is. But it is doable.
Yeah, it's tougher to close the distance because you're closer to the animal. You have to draw. You have to be ready. Yeah. It's just tougher, but...
Also, think about calling further back and then sneaking up, like stalking to where it is. Because when they're holed up, when you're by yourself, you make the moves, and so you can get away with a lot more just getting into position, then moving, crawling, closing the gap, closing the distance.
Ooh, he said it. He said the name of the podcast.
I did.
But it's cutting the distance. We started out just as
just kidding.
just as this is a little bit of behind the scenes. We started out as closing the distance. That was the show name.
I didn't like that.
And then Remy was like, "No,
that sounds like I'm in a bar."
Yeah, it was like trying to pick up chicks at a bar. I'm like, okay,
that's not cool.
Then cutting the distance.
I mean, that's not a good name. Yeah,
No.
Cutting
is better.
Yeah,
because if you're at a bar, you would close the distance, not cut it.
Right.
That's too brash. It's too brash. What else we got? Oh, man, there's a lot.
I should make shorter answers and we can.
We have time for. I think we probably have time for two more.
Okay,
two more. Here's a good one, and this came in a lot. People love the shoes off situation. I think we might have to make a T-shirt that says SOS.
A shoes off situation.
Shoes off situation. This was an episode ago where we talked about, or Remy talked about, hunting mule deer without your shoes on. And a lot of you guys wrote in to ask specifics about it, but one of the things that came in the most was, what's the craziest place you've ever done an SOS?
In the Chugach Mountains of Alaska.
Ooh.
Stalking some bedded Dall sheep. It was closing in. It was steep. It was shaly. Dall sheep generally don't mind noise, but I was bow hunting and I was so close, and in order to get a shot, I had to get closer. It was a shoes off situation. It was wet ground. It was rocky. That was a major shoes off situation. And then probably the second craziest shoes off situation, bow hunting in Mexico.
Ooh.
Little cactus country.
Oh boy.
But I did the sandal. I did what I like, my modified shoes off sitch, the sandal with sock over.
Oh.
Yeah. That helped with the old.
Not a fashion statement, but effective.
Right. Well, you don't see the sandal because the sock's over the top.
That's true.
Yeah, you can wear socks under your sandals if you wear socks over your sandals as well.
Neither of which very fashionable.
Yep.
What else we got here?
I'm glad people like the shoes off sitch, though.
People love the shoes off sitch.
And the only reason I started talking about that was one of the things that I just get a lot of questions about and think, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Think about every mule deer archery article you've ever read talks about that. And then people are surprised about it.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think it's probably something that those of us who do a lot of stalking understand, but maybe those that just see this, that are either casual hunters that just don't do a lot of Western spot and stalk.
Yeah.
Spend a lot of time in a tree, you know?
Dude, you're stalking. The thing I see all the time, the big mistake, is guys wearing mountaineering style boots and like, I'm going to sneak up on this mule deer in dry country in my full shank boots.
Well,
Good luck, son.
I would say the first time that we ever went to Lanai to stalk axis deer, I probably brought a pair of like crispy mountain boots that were, I probably did.
And you notice that first time, I just hunted like damn near barefoot the entire time. And I did pretty darn good.
Yes.
And it was just like, I was just walking. I was like, it's flat. It's not bad. This is one spot. Might as well just hunt my stocking socks all day.
The whole time,
great.
yeah. We ended up by the second or third trip we went over there. You and me and everyone else would put boots in your pack and just have them in case you had to walk on the road or something. But you just didn't even wear them. Didn't even need them. So it depends on where you are. And the funny thing is, a lot of you guys that wrote in, Remy does a lot of hunting out west, and that's what this podcast is really about. And it's cool that a lot of you guys wrote in. You're from all over the country and you're coming west to hunt. Public land. Cool. There's so much, there's such a divide regionally, but it just seems like there's a lot of people that are traveling from a long ways from their home place to go do these things. So it's important that you get it right. So I'm glad that those things are coming together. Now, probably the biggest question that I have, this is episode 4. It was called The Story of Stubby McNubbins. I can't even say it right.
Stubby McNubbins.
Stubby McNubbins. And a couple people asked it in, is Stubby McNubbins still roaming the hills of Montana?
Ooh. So, yes and no.
Oh.
The OG Stubby McNubbins, I think he's gone. However, his genes moved on. It's it's like Bigfoot sightings in this area because there's multiple places where we're like, we saw Stubby. I think it's just Stubby's offspring. Dude, he was the boss hog. He had his harem and he ruled the roost.
And he made it.
His genes definitely got passed on. The memory and the legacy of Stubby McNubbins shall endure.
God bless you, Stubby.
Yeah.
God bless you. Do you have any, like, what's in the future? We want to do this. We're going to do this, as frequently as we can. Remy be out in the field a lot this fall, and as will I, and doing other things. But we're going to try to make sure we do this at least once every couple of months where we gather all your questions and we answer them on the show. So look out for that. But there's a lot of other things coming up as far as topics. So hopefully stick around. What's burning for you there, Remy?
Oh, I think there's some good stuff as far as we're coming into. I like to make it topical and seasonal.
Yes.
So, let's talk about a little spotting stuff, some rifle season elk hunting tactics, deer hunting tactics, then just some all around just good hunting skills.
Yeah, man. We've been hammering pretty hard on glassing tips, which we haven't covered yet on the show. So I think that's coming up, right?
Yeah, glassing. That's the number one tactic for Western hunting. And that's a question I've been getting a lot. Dude, someone just wrote, actually right before we started recording this, saw, okay, I've got good optics, but I'm only seeing stuff that's moving around. What the hell am I doing wrong? What should I be looking for? Yeah. And then I'll talk about that, but I want to get into some advanced stuff too for the guys that, I want you to be the best spotter that you know.
Yeah, I have it written down as an episode title, Spot Bucks Before Your Friends.
That's a good one.
Make it competitive.
Yep.
So we will keep working on this, but thank you for writing in from my desk and the whole Meat Eater crew, and especially Remy, who's the man.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, guys. And then maybe some, shoot me some comments on good endings. How should I end the podcast? That's the hardest part. Like, what's a good sign off? Like, stay frosty, stay stealthy.
Yeah, you got
eat your broccoli. Dude, I'm going to use that.
Don't die. Wasn't one of them like don't get eaten?
Don't get eaten. I don't know. The sign off.
I kind of like the variety.
I want one that's like kind of me, where it's subtle yet cool.
Is that how you see yourself?
I don't know. Yeah, maybe.
Subtle.
Like, if I'm in a group of people, like, I'm just...
Like, when you're leaving the bar and everybody else is staying, like, you're leaving early to go home, get some rest, you say, like, all right, guys, stay frosty.
No, see, I just... If I'm around a group of people, I do the Irish goodbye.
The Irish goodbye.
I just leave. Because nobody... If you say I'm leaving, then everyone's like, why are you leaving?
Key.
You just, like...
That's key.
Slip out.
That's on our new podcast called Closing the Distance.
That's on
It's
the
all
new
about
podcast called
bar tips,
Yes.
being at the bar.
How to, I don't know. Yeah, a lot of hunting tips. Not so good for social situations.
All right, Remy, close it out. Give us your ender.
Yeah. Thanks for the comments. I wish we could get to all of them. I try my damnedest to answer as many questions as I can. The shorter the answer, the more likely I am to respond to it via message before my thumbs wear out. However, some of the longer form ones, I like to, this is great. Talk it out here. And until next week, eat your protein. Eat that. Cook your elk medium rare. Keep it medium rare. Goodbye.
Outdoor adventure won't wait for engine problems. Things like hard starts, rough performance, and lost fuel economy are often caused by fuel gum and varnish buildup. Seafoam can help your engine run better and last longer. Simply pour a can in your gas tank. Hunters and anglers rely on Seafoam to keep their engines running the way it should the entire season. Pick up a can of Seafoam today at your local auto parts store or visit seafoamworks.com to learn more.
You ever get that feeling the walls closing in, the concrete jungle suffocating you? You crave some wide open spaces, the chance to connect with nature, maybe in a spot all your own. Well, head over to land.com. They've got ranches, forests, mountains, streams, you name it. Search by acreage. You can search by location. You can search by the kind of hunting and fishing you're dreaming of. Land.com. It is where the adventure begins.